Hi everyone, my name's Liam. I'm from Ammo Marketing. I'm a growth marketer, but I'm also account manager for all of our clients and stuff at Ammo, but also run sort of day-to-day operations, delegation, and try and make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible with our team and make sure everyone's got what they need for that to happen. I think it happens reasonably smoothly most of the time. Jack has asked me to give a little bit of an intro on who I am, where I came from. I don't actually have much of a business background in marketing or anything like that. I did literary and cultural studies and anthropology and sociology at university. So I did a humanities and arts degree, and I kind of, once I'd finished that, I realized I had absolutely no understanding of business or economics or anything like that whatsoever. And I was interested in like the private sector, but I didn't know how I'd actually go about figuring out how I fit in or what my kind of skill set could actually help people with. So I started looking up like economics and that sort of thing, and I came across like Austrian school economists like Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard and that kind of thing. And I think through that, I just found startups. I don't even remember how I actually did that. But I came across Bloom and that kind of thing. And I think if you're looking up startups in Perth, you're bound to come across our director, Cam Sinclair's name somewhere among them, because he's been kind of like entrenched in the sort of startup culture and community for, I don't know, it must be like 7 years now or something, I reckon. And to me, startups seem to be like the more interesting, youthful and innovative part of business that was something that appealed to me. Everything like corporate seemed a bit too stodgy for my liking, and I probably wouldn't fit in there anyway. So that's how I kind of came across everyone, and I was sort of looking at Bloom and I was hanging around on the fringes on like the community chat there and that sort of thing, and it came up that Ammo was hiring. So I got in touch with Adrian Peterson there. He was moving to Bain. I didn't have any experience in the area, but Cam seemed to like me and he gave me a job. So since then, like 4.5 years ago, Jack and I started with Cam, and we've been building a business together. We've since hired like a branding expert and designer, Alex DiGiovanni. He did his speech a couple of weeks ago on minimum viable brand. So check that one out if you're interested in branding. Mine kind of feeds on from that in a way. And we recently hired a young 17-year-old named Kai Lovell, who's like an idiot savant. I've never met anyone like him. Weird, super like tech nerd and obsessed with tools and stuff like that. And he's a massive asset to Ammo now as well. So that's my little story, a little intro. My talk was meant to be on like campaigns and growth marketing in a more sort of like traditional sense, I think, but I got kind of bored when I was writing it, so I sort of changed it last minute, like a day ago, to culture as a growth channel. And it's just something that interests me, and I think hopefully it interests other people as well. It's primarily more like B2C companies and ones that I dig and kind of use and that sort of thing. So I'll get into it. So this is the sort of question I want to answer today, and hopefully I kind of get somewhere to it, but what has culture and community got to do with growing a business? And I think in the space, a lot of people talk about culture, and they talk about like building a culture within your business in terms of like the people you hire, making sure that they are a good fit, they're not dickheads, they align with your cultural values in your business and that sort of thing. But I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about how do you build a business that is already within a culture and community and build that product for those people. So you're already within it and you're building it for them. So these are the companies I'm going to look at today. New Me, who are a client of ours. Yeti Outdoor Products. Do you guys know who Yeti is? No? That's one of their water bowls over there if you ever see one that looks like that. And Mutt Motorcycles. So this is very me-ish, but hopefully it sort of transfers. So the first one I talk about is New Me. They're a client of ours. This business was started by Dr. Matt Henderson. He's a upper intestinal bariatric surgeon. I think I got that right. But his story he told me was he was working with a firm of surgeons and he wanted to become a partner. They denied him that, and he was sort of like, well, whatever, this is a pretty stodgy business anyway, and I think there's a lot of ways we can do this better, particularly on like the area of after patient care, after they've had their surgery and that sort of thing. They're kind of just left to their own devices, and a lot of these patients, they get the surgery because of, they've become obese and that sort of stuff, but not because they love food, but because there might be some underlying psychological problems, comorbidities, that kind of thing that just are not addressed with like depression and diabetes and that kind of stuff. So New Me is a brand and essentially like a product and almost like something that Matt wants to maybe franchise in the future, where he's actually bringing dietitians and psychologists and this like community and care that patients get after they go through the surgery. So Matt will actually, after you've had the surgery, he'll bring you a box, and in that box you get a journal, a Fitbit, a premium Spotify, like a account and that sort of stuff. And through that, we actually put a QR code in the box that you get. It takes you to a Get Started page on the website where you can access all the community of people who actually come through New Me. And so, this here is a product called MoveSpring, and essentially it's like an app which is white labeled. You can brand it with New Me and that kind of thing. And within this app, you can actually start to chat with all the people that actually come through New Me. It's kind of like Strava for walking. People can set challenges and that sort of stuff, share recipes, and really kind of hold each other accountable to keeping fit and keeping on track to becoming their New Me. And that's really what this is all about. So Matt was kind of worried that this community wouldn't take hold, but really, like, if you go on the community pages that are already on Facebook, you've got thousands and thousands of daily active users who are just doing it organically. Like, it already exists, and Matt has built a product for those people. He's a highly trusted surgeon. If you look up Dr. Matt Henderson, you're not going to find a shitty thing written about the guy whatsoever. It's nothing but positive reviews, no deaths that I'm aware of, and that kind of thing. So Matt, and I put these things on the side here for all of the businesses I'm going to talk about, and they're all the same. And I think this is sort of a little recipe that I see time and time again of companies that actually work, and they have a unique product offering within a niche market. They have brand differentiation, and the product is built within and for a pre-existing community and culture. You see a lot of people in the business world talking about building culture and leveraging community and shit like that, but you cannot build community and culture. It has to already exist, and you essentially just facilitate the machinery around that helps your business grow within it, because the product you've made is for them, and essentially it's by someone who's actually deals with them day to day in a face-to-face way. So that is New Me. The next one I want to talk about is Yeti. I'm surprised no one knows about this, but maybe it is extremely niche that maybe it's a good thing no one knows. But Yeti's a company that was founded by two fly fishermen, I think in America's South. I don't know if you guys know much about fly fishing. In Australia, it's considered this thing that old boys do when they retire. They go down to Pemberton, they buy a house, and they just stand in the river. And it's a very relaxing and philosophical way to wind down the end of your life. But in Europe and in America, this is how you fish. This is how like dads will show their sons and daughters how to angle, and that's how it's passed on. But like in the South, in America, you might have like Florida Keys. People use what's kind of like a dinghy. They call it a skiff. It's got a flat top, and on top of that flat top, they put a cooler, and they use it as like a casting platform. Fly fishing is much more like hunting, where you're actually sight fishing. You're looking for the fish tailing, and they load up the rod and fire the line like it's a gun and try to get it to land smoothly in front of the fish and start stripping it, and hopefully it'll actually take the bait. So these guys were standing on top of coolers you might get from Bunnings, something like that. They were breaking, people were falling in the water, they were buying like 10 a year. And so these guys are like, we gotta build something. So they whacked together an esky, they put a wooden top on it, and they just started giving it to all their angling friends, and they loved it. So they thought, okay, we've probably got a product here. So they started to get the things roto-molded, and they thought, we're going to overbuild the shit out of this thing. It's going to have a 1,000-year warranty, and you never need to buy another one again. And so they started giving that to all of their friends for free. And those friends who are in that angling and hunting community really became influencers and ambassadors of their product. So these coolers, they start at like $300 US, which is ridiculous for a cooler. And they thought no one would ever pay for that. But it became like a prestige product for people in the hunting community and fishing community that aren't people that are gonna go buy like a high-level fashion house brand or something like that and then and show it off. So you got one of these, you got a hat, you got a sticker, and if you had this in the back of your Ford Ute, you were seen to be like the most extreme outdoors kind of person and became like a prestige brand. So since then, they've actually expanded from just making coolers to make like water bottles like that one over there. You can run that thing over it and it'll never die and you'll never have to buy another one. They do all sort of like soft coolers and that kind of stuff, but they're all extremely overbuilt, extremely expensive, and people are paying for it because, again, these guys are fly fishermen. They gave it to people in their community. They gave it to hunters. Hunters, I don't know if you've ever watched that show, Meat Eater, with Steve Rinella. Like hunters will trek like 20 kilometers into the bush, shoot like deer or something, dress it, gut it, skin it, and then put it in the load out of their backpack, head all the way back to the Ford truck that's adorned with Yeti stickers and gun brands or something like that, and then jump back into the car and off they go. So they built a unique product. They built the shit out of it. They made it super expensive, and it was for people in the community, by people in the community, and it just spread like that. They had to do very little marketing initially for the first few years of their like growth spurt. So it's only been very recently that Yeti have done some like amazing marketing. Like they will, they get US Marines to put the coolers in the back of a Hercules and they'll just chuck them out and they'll be full of beer and stuff. They'll land and then like the cooler will still be relatively intact, but then they'll crack the beers open. They'll fill it with meat and they'll get grizzly bears to try and break into it, and they'll set it on fire and the ice will still be cool inside of it. They do a lot of that kind of viral marketing stuff these days, but initially their growth was really primarily based around community of those hunters and fly fishermen. So again, this recipe worked for them initially. Zero paid digital marketing initially, just built within the community for them, and they really just leveraged hunting and fly fishing culture. So that is that one. The next one is Mutt motorcycles. So I actually bought one of these last year. I'd always wanted a motorcycle, but I'd always been obsessed with like a BMX race and downhill mountain bike since I was a kid and stuff like that. Most people I know hate motorcycles because they're fucking dangerous and they'll kill you, and everyone will tell you this. Everyone will go out of their way to tell you this. And they're generally right, but they're so much fun, and I don't surf much anymore, so this kind of takes the place of that. A bit about Mutt Motorcycles. Mutt is a custom motorcycle builder in Birmingham, England. And maybe it might be useful for me to like talk about some of the communities within the culture of motorcycling. You might have people that just use motorcycles as a purely like utilitarian mode of getting around, just from A to B, like the kind of like the way they use motorcycles and scooters in Asia. It's very much like that. It's out in the rain, it's out in the sun, it looks like shit, but they don't care, it just does its specific job. The next one might be sports bike riders. Sports bike riders, their sports bikes are very poor for just riding around town and stuff like that. It takes a while for the engines to spool up. They're made for going 200 k's an hour. And when people talk about motorcycles being dangerous, that's the demographic that usually ends up with their head between the fork of a tree because they've been ripping around the hills at like 170 k's an hour. Then you might have the people who are into bike aesthetics, and these people are very much obsessed with custom bikes like American, like Harley Davidson choppers, European cafe races and stuff like that. And that's where Mutt have created their niche. So this bike is kind of like, this brand is a niche within a niche, because these bikes are for LAMS riders, which is like for L-plate riders. They have to be restricted below 600 cc. So it's a low capacity bike that looks like a custom, and it's only for those low cc or L-plate riders. So when people were coming to them and going, I want one of these like Triumph Bonnevilles that's 900 cc, they go, we can't sell you that, and we can't build it for you because it's going to cost like as much as like a new Porsche or something like that, but we can sell you this. So they put together these blanks from China and Japan. They whacked like, I think it was about 3,000 pounds on it, and they just put it in the front of their showroom, and people just started buying them. And then they started giving them to other custom bike builders, and they just put them in the front of their sheds. And these people's like, their businesses aren't showrooms, but they allowed these bikes to be in there. They gave them to cafes and baristas and barbers, stuff like that. And they just started selling, and they kind of realized they were onto something there, that this was a very niche market that they could then really give a product to the community of people who love custom bikes, but can't really afford them, and they can't ride them anyway. So again, might also differentiate on their actual showrooms. They're not just like just a place where you actually come and buy a bike. They're like destinations where you can go get food, you can go listen to live music, you can buy other products. People actually go ride there, and they actually have created a community within a community that they've already just really, been a part of since the beginning anyway. They're a very trusted brand in Birmingham as well, and they're kind of bringing like bike manufacturing back to Birmingham, where a lot of those things actually started. So again, brand differentiation, unique product offering within a niche market, and their product is built within and for a pre-existing community and culture. So they've had to do very little marketing whatsoever. And I even checked out on all their Facebooks and socials, because it's super transparent. You can't make ads these days without being able to see what they're doing. They've never done any of it. It's all just influencer stuff, Instagram. All these products, B2C stuff, are super Instagrammable and hashtagable and stuff like that. Like, I follow heaps of people who just have bikes and they just put up constant photos of triumphs and stuff like that, and I will look at that shit like it's porn to me. Like, I just like have, like, I don't get tired of it, and that's just how that kind of bike community grows. And these guys have a multi-million-dollar business. Oh, and just so you know, Yeti is now valued at $5 billion, because they have not just made coolers and water bottles and stuff like that. Since they got sold, they have turned into like a lifestyle brand, kind of like Red Bull or something, where they sponsor surfers, snowboarders, mountain bikers, and not just hunters and fishermen. And so initially, like, because they're in the South, they sponsored the NRA. So if you were part of the National Rifle Association, you got like 25% off. And they took away that sponsorship once they sold it. And all the rednecks got super shitty, and they were blowing up their $800 coolers and stuff. And even Joe Rogan was talking about it and stuff like that. Super dumb. They were filling them with some kind of like explosive and then getting back and blowing them up with shotguns and stuff. So that's how attached people were to the Yeti brand. And when I was looking up like a growth story on Yeti, and this is for like, I'd say, a really powerful branding story. There's this woman who was working like a pretty boring white collar job, but she'd spent like $10,000 on Yeti products, and they asked her why, and she's like, well, I've really drank the Kool-Aid, but when I put my Yeti water bottle on my desk at work, I feel like that's expressing my proper identity as a woman who loves, traversing glaciers with her husband and fishing with her kids and exploring and adventuring. She will spend all that money just to get that feeling by drinking from a water bottle, because she thought this product fully outwardly expressed her true identity. And that's like, I don't think you get brand loyalty and experience that's any more powerful than that. So yeah, so all of these companies all have these three things in common. It's a bit of a recipe. There's probably a few more things you could add to it. It's like a bit of a simplification of this, but I think all in all, that's sort of part of what you can do to build a business within a community that you're already a part of, and just use that as your initial kind of growth channel. It's a bit unorthodox, because not everyone can do it. It has to be a certain type of product that is already within a pre-existing culture, like motorcycle culture, hunting and fishing culture, and using those communities within those. New Me is different. I wouldn't say there's a culture of weight loss surgery, but there is definitely a community around helping each other within that space. So what has culture and community got to do with growing a business? This is me attempting to actually answer the question I posed at the start. So I think really the core things are knowing and understanding your customer persona like they're your best friend. Don't go build a business for people if you have no idea what their problem is, what they're actually experiencing day to day. If you're already within that community, you already know and talk to them every day. So build something for those people. So to effectively use community and culture like a growth channel, you should personally belong to the community and culture your product was built for and with. And I think this is the most authentic channel for growing any business. People are going to refer you. They're going to tell their friends what you're doing. They're going to want to be seen with your product, because they just want to help each other anyway. So if they can refer a product and that kind of thing, then easy. Like when I went to buy my motorbike from Triumph last year, I went in there and I was like, man, I want to buy this Bonneville here. I just got my L's, and he's like, I can't say that, man. It's a 900cc high torque thing. I was super green. I didn't know what he was talking about anyway. And he's like, go buy Mutt. Mutt aren't competing with them, but he's referring a company that he knew I wanted a bike that looked like them. And there you go. And when I went to Road Motorcycles, they weren't selling them. And went on Instagram and I said, you need to get your bikes into this shop, because I had to go to Husqvarna, who sell fucking lawnmowers, and I had to buy a motorcycle from them. Why am I doing that? So there you go. I've got them business, and now they're selling every day just because I thought it was be useful if they had them in their thing. I'll give you one more example, and it's ammo marketing. It's our business, because I think everyone might want to hear one's B2B, but ammo marketing, like Cam, our director, he's been helping people in the startup community for years now. And he started Ammo to help founders. And everyone at Ammo is obsessed with businesses anyway, particularly startups, and even building our own on the side. Side projects are super encouraged in our business. So Ammo exists to help those founders within that community. It's not like we're from the outside and then we're trying to reach in. We're not on the outside sending digital marketing your way on LinkedIn and hoping you're going to click our ads and convert on our website or anything like that. We're face-to-face talking with our customers daily. We know them. So that is how we grow our business. Giving this talk today is part of our flywheel. If you think what I said is interesting, or you think someone might find use to come chat with us anytime, we do this stuff for free daily. It doesn't bother us whatsoever. So that's what we're doing. And really what we're doing is the exact same things as this. We're not like any other agency, really. We're a unique product offering, working primarily with startups and innovative businesses doing interesting, cool shit. And our product is built within the startup community and ecosystem, and it's for them. It's for people who are in it every day. So yeah. Weird Growth. This is our podcast. You can come listen to it. A lot of it's stories with founders, similar to what I've been chatting about today, but directly with the person rather than a third-hand retelling. And check out Alex Giovanni. He's our designer. He has a podcast as well called, what's it called?
Kill Your Logo.
Kill Your Logo. And that's funny. It's really just him and his brother just riffing about all things branding and design and what you shouldn't do, what things are cringe and what should be avoided and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's the end of the presentation. My first ever presentation. Is there any questions? Fire them.
At what stage MO marketing comes in, like when, especially if it's a software product, you achieve the product market fit and then you're ready for growth sort of thing?
Yeah, I'd say so.
At that stage, or you come at like even the early stage where startup founders are still validating their products?
Yeah, we do help run validation campaigns and that sort of thing. But I do think like if you're doing like a B2B SaaS kind of product or something like that, it's best to go out into like those places where you think your product will be of great use and just get face-to-face with them, give it to them for free, collect those case studies, get those testimonials on your website if you've got them, and then I would say you probably have product market fit if they're saying that this is very useful. If you were to take that product away from them, they'd be very upset. And I think that's our sweet spot really, is working with people with product market fit. Yeah, but we do both, but it's preferably product market fit, because that's where I think digital marketing and some of that stuff can really help tap businesses along. I think digital marketing should always be like a decent sort of slice of your marketing strategy that you actually experiment with, but you don't lean on it to do the heavy lifting, particularly in B2B and B2C, like I was just saying here. Do it all face-to-face within those communities, get in front of them, do what you can. I'd say reach out to them on LinkedIn, send those authentic messages. Don't even bother trying to build something that's super scalable initially, because you're just trying to see if they want your product. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
That was a good presentation for the first one.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Like, if that's your first presentation, I'd have to call bullshit to agree. That was brilliant.
Really?
Yeah.
No, legit. At university, I did presentations, but I pretty much read my fucking essay off the page. Like, so.
If I could pitch your money as well as you just pitch that, I think I'd be multi-millionaire by now.
Well, thank you. That's a good compliment. Maybe I'll do a few more in the future or something. I didn't even want to do this when Jack.
Now, that's it. Well, I'll book you with Jordan for the next week.
Is there any more questions? Or?
Yeah, in terms of ammo and the staff there, and like how we think we've got a phenomenal product, right? And the thing that's down to us and success is marketing, like reach and all of that.
Yeah.
Has ammo ever done anything, because it's in the startup community, where it's a sweat equity in the business, or has it always been, here's some dollars, please help us with our marketing? Because it is startups, right?
Yeah,
Startups,
true.
right?
Well,
Look at me. You can go first. I'll go.
are we even allowed to say that kind of stuff?
Well, it depends. Depends what you're saying.
Well, we're working with a friend's brewery, right? Because we believe beer sells, to some degree anyway. And we're kind
We'll
of
drink it anyway.
Yeah. We're supposed to have more control of the branding and stuff than we actually kind of currently do, right?
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, good. So it's hard. We would have to have a good look at like the whole business model and what product it is, and see how saturated the market is and all that kind of stuff, and what we could actually do with branding and all that kind of thing, and messaging and that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, we've been paid in crypto before.
How did that work out? What was it?
It was interesting.
Was that before the recent?
We've done like a couple of equity deals, but I mean, really, your best source of growth is your customer. So, you know, we don't like taking equity from founders, because you know, if depending on how fast you're growing anyway, you're not going to finish up with a lot. So keep it, hold on to it, and bootstrap. That'd be our advice.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But come in for a chat anyway.
In terms of size of our like budget, if we come to MO marketing, what's the like minimum, I guess, from your experiences, all the startups you've been working with, what's the minimum marketing budget they allocate in order to get the best return on investment if you're going to come to MO marketing? There's
a few things that are, I would say, it depends how we work. Is we do a strategy session with Cam and Jack, or me or Alex, depending on what you need. If you need brand advice, Alex will come in there, and I sort of sit around listening because I'm the account manager as well. So I need to know what's happening when time comes. You have to chat with me every day, but there's no real right or wrong answer on how much budget you should be spending on advertising and what the split is across different channels and that sort of stuff. Essentially, we'll start with a certain amount on each one. If one becomes expensive very quickly and there's very little, no one's taking the bait or whatsoever, then you can say that maybe that channel isn't right for you, maybe digital marketing isn't right for you, or maybe you know, the messaging isn't right, branding's not right. That's the thing with marketing, it's like super subjective. Like there's so many things that could be right or wrong. It's more a matter of just keeping account of what's working and what's not, and trying to figure out what is. So, yeah. But I think it's always good to experiment with digital marketing to have that presence, because if you're doing display ads or remarketing, that's where you tag people with a cookie and people start seeing your ads around the place. It works like brand saturation. So when the time comes for actually someone to make a sale, particularly with like a B2B SaaS or something, they've already seen you around. You're already like sort of burnt into the back of their brains a little bit, and that increases trust. They land on your website, they see that you've got testimonials and case studies, and then when they want to actually make that conversion, they trust you a lot more. We've seen with B2B companies, like we're looking into like some of the analytics there, people would click an ad and then you won't see them again for like 2 months maybe, but you can see they're in the remarketing list, you can see they've looked at the website and they've spent 15 minutes around clicking, causing events, and then they'll come back and do the same thing a month later, and then they might actually commit to your call to action, whatever that may be. So it's never really, particularly with most businesses, it's never like a straight line from ad click to purchase. Even stuff for me where it's like maybe $500 and I really want it, I'll leave it in the cart for like a month and I'll go back. And I hate those companies, especially e-commerce ones, that get rid of my cart, because just tell me it's still in there and I'll probably come back and buy it, like I was just being a stinge at the time or something like. Yeah.
Culture, using culture in a market that is probably more saturated or more commodity based, something like on-demand food delivery. Have you got any good examples examples of where
Mm.
culture's worked in that space?
On-demand food delivery, like that's sort of like Uber Eats, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
DoorDash.
Not really, hey. Nah. Because it usually requires, it's more on like instant demand, right? Or I'm hungry and I'm lazy and I'll go do that.
It's a bit of a commodity. So.
Yeah. Whereas like communities really situated around culture, giving things like, it works particularly well with things that have a really long heritage and culture, where you have like music and fashion and all of these other components within it and community. There might be certain types of food where you have that. I remember my friend, Joel Reese, he started, I think it was called Committed to Soul. It was like a Brazilian food truck. They had like a lot of friends and stuff around that. They brought music in. His wife was from Brazil. They'd have like people playing ukuleles and all that kind of stuff. You came there for a cultural experience. And now they run, I think it's Madalenas in Frio. So yeah, maybe, yeah, it has to be more involved with people rather than just something you click a button on a computer. Yeah, for sure. Any more? No? Well, hopefully that was helpful to some degree anyway. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.